I can still feel the tremor in my hands the night everything started to unravel. It wasn't from fear, not at first. It was from the baby's restless kicks, tiny jolts beneath my ribs that made me pause mid-sentence as I scrolled through my phone, rereading the same message for the 5th time. "Hey, I'll be in town next week. Coffee." The name flashing at the top of the screen wasn't supposed to mean anything anymore. Ethan. My old friend. At least, that's what I'd told Daniel when I first mentioned him. Back then it sounded harmless enough. "Oh, he's just someone from college." I said it casually while rinsing dishes, hoping the clatter of running water would swallow the quiver in my voice. That was 6 months ago. Now, sitting on the couch, swollen ankles propped on a pillow, I felt the familiar ache of guilt curling in my chest like smoke. Ethan shouldn't have been texting me. I shouldn't have replied. But I did. Because there was something in his words, the easy warmth, the familiarity, the way he still called me Em like no one else did, that made me feel something I hadn't felt in months. Daniel had been distant lately. Ever since we found out I was pregnant, he'd thrown himself into work. Longer hours, extra meetings, urgent deadlines. I told myself he was just trying to provide, that his coldness wasn't rejection, that the silence between us at dinner wasn't growing into something I should fear. But deep down I knew. I'd felt it, the invisible space expanding between us. And Ethan. He was the opposite of that space. He filled it with attention, with questions about the baby, with jokes that made me laugh so hard I forgot how heavy I felt. Still, I told myself it was innocent. When Daniel came home that night, I quickly flipped my phone face down. He didn't notice. He rarely did anymore. "Smells good," he said, dropping his briefcase by the door and loosening his tie. I watched him from across the kitchen, the man I'd promised forever to, and for a fleeting second I almost told him the truth. That Ethan and I had dated for 2 years before Daniel came along. That Ethan had been my first everything. That seeing his name again made something deep in me stir, something I thought I'd buried years ago. But I didn't. Instead I smiled and said, "I made your favorite. Lemon chicken." He kissed my forehead, distracted, then went upstairs to shower. I told myself I wasn't lying. Not really. Not until it mattered. A week later I met Ethan. It was supposed to be a quick coffee catch-up. No harm in that, right? But when he walked into the cafe, sunlight catching the faint scar on his jaw, the one I used to trace with my thumb when we were both too young to know what heartbreak meant, something in me cracked. He smiled that same lazy, crooked grin. "You look beautiful, Em." I laughed awkwardly, gesturing to my 8-month belly. "Yeah, sure. Like a beached whale, maybe." He shook his head, eyes soft. "No. You look happy." I didn't. But I let him believe it. We talked for hours. About everything. About nothing. And somewhere between the laughter and the nostalgia, his hand brushed mine. The contact was brief, accidental maybe, but it sent a current straight through me. Pulled away. "Ethan." He leaned back, exhaling. "You ever think about what would have happened if we hadn't ended?" The question lingered like smoke between us. I told him no. But I had. Many times. Especially lately. When I left the cafe, my heart felt split between 2 lives. The one I was living and the one that could have been. That night, Daniel noticed something in my voice. "You okay?" he asked quietly, climbing into bed beside me. I turned to him, forcing a smile. "Just tired. The baby's been kicking non-stop." He nodded, pulling the blanket higher over my belly. His hand rested there for a moment before he said softly, "I can't wait to meet her." His eyes glowed with something so genuine it made my stomach twist. Guilt tasted like metal in my mouth. I thought I could stop it there. But the next day, Ethan texted again. Then the next. And soon it wasn't just coffee. It was calls. Long late-night conversations when Daniel was working late. It was him saying he missed my voice. It was me saying I missed being seen. Until one night Daniel came home early. I didn't hear him at first. The phone pressed to my ear, laughter spilling out as Ethan told me a ridiculous story about our college days. Then I heard it, the sound of the front door clicking open. Emily! Daniel's voice froze. Hey! I stammered, lowering the phone. You're home early. His eyes flicked to the phone. Who were you talking to? For a moment my mind went blank. Then I lied. Effortlessly, like I'd been practicing it all along. Just, Sarah. She was checking in. He nodded slowly, his expression unreadable. But something in his gaze shifted. A faint hardness, a flicker of suspicion. That night he didn't touch me. And for the first time I realized my secret wasn't buried. It was waiting just beneath the surface, ready to explode. When the storm hit 2 weeks later, I didn't see it coming. Daniel came home early again, drenched from the rain. I was in the nursery, folding tiny pink clothes, humming softly to the baby kicking beneath my ribs. He called, voice low. Can we talk? He turned, smiling. Sure, what's? He was holding my phone. Unlocked. Ethan's name glowed on the screen, the last message open. Sometimes I wish it was my baby. The air left my lungs. I could hear my own pulse pounding in my ears as he stared at me, eyes burning with disbelief and something else, something colder. What is this? He asked. I opened my mouth, but no words came. The silence between us stretched until it became unbearable. Daniel, please. It's not what you think. His voice cracked when he spoke. Then tell me what I'm supposed to think. The truth clawed at my throat, desperate to get out. That I'd only talked to Ethan, that nothing physical happened, that I'd been lonely and stupid and selfish. But before I could speak, Daniel turned away. I can't do this right now. He walked out. The front door slammed. And for the first time in my life, I realized I might have just destroyed the only person who truly loved me. The night Daniel walked out, the rain didn't stop. It slammed against the windows like angry fists, drowning the house in its rage. I sat on the nursery floor, surrounded by tiny clothes and soft toys that suddenly felt like relics from a life I might not get to keep. I tried calling him once, twice, 7 times. Straight to voicemail. Each unanswered ring tightened something around my chest until it hurt to breathe. I whispered apologies into the silence, as if the walls could carry them to wherever he'd gone. I didn't cheat. Not really. I just forgot what it felt like to be loved. The words sounded pathetic, even to me. When dawn came, I found his wedding band on the kitchen counter, just sitting there beside the car keys. And I knew. He hadn't gone to work. He'd left. For days, I drifted through the house like a ghost. The crib stayed half-assembled. The nursery walls were still unpainted. We'd argued about the color. He wanted pale green, I wanted soft pink. Now it didn't matter. Ethan texted again, of course. He always did. I heard what happened. You okay, bae? What a useless word. I wanted to scream at him. Tell him that he'd ruined everything, that his name on my phone had set my life on fire. But the truth was uglier. I had let him in. I'd opened the door, knowing exactly what stood on the other side. I typed, Daniel found out, then deleted it. Instead I wrote, I need time. And for the first time since he'd reappeared, Ethan didn't reply. 2 nights later Daniel came back. The sound of the door opening jolted me upright from the couch. I'd been sleeping in the living room because the bed felt too big, too empty. He looked exhausted, eyes bloodshot, clothes wrinkled like he hadn't slept at all. I stood slowly, unsure whether to run to him or apologize from a distance. Daniel! My voice trembled. Please. I swear I didn't. He held up a hand. I know. The word hit me like a gust of cold air. You know. He nodded. I went to see him. The room tilted. You what? Ethan. His jaw tightened. I found him. I asked him what happened between you two. I pressed a hand against my belly, the baby shifting as if sensing the storm building again. What did he say? Daniel's voice was quiet, but it carried an edge sharp enough to draw blood. He said you were just talking, that you missed him, that it was emotional, not physical. Tears burned my eyes. That's the truth. I never. He cut me off. I didn't believe him. The words sliced through me. Daniel, please, I whispered. You have to believe me. I made a mistake, He looked at me, his expression unreadable. Mistake. You lied to me for months, Emily. You hid him from me. You let him say things like, I wish it was my baby. And you didn't shut it down. You didn't mean to destroy us. His voice cracked. Then what did you mean to do? I covered my face with my hands, sobbing. The sound came out raw, like it had been trapped for years. He stood there watching me crumble, and for a moment I thought I saw pity flicker in his eyes. Then something else, pain maybe, or resignation. I'll stay, he said finally. Until the baby's born. You shouldn't be alone right now. My knees went weak. So that's it. You're just leaving after. He didn't answer. That silence was worse than shouting. Worse than hate. Because it meant he'd already decided. The following weeks passed in a blur of aching quiet. He slept in the guest room. We barely spoke. He went to doctor's appointments, but only out of duty. His voice was polite, his hands careful. His eyes somewhere far away. Sometimes I caught him staring at me. Not with love, but with the kind of curiosity you'd reserve for a stranger you used to know. The guilt became unbearable. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. Every heartbeat felt like a countdown. Until one afternoon, as I folded the last of the baby's clothes, I found an envelope tucked inside the dresser drawer. No name. Just a folded sheet of paper inside. When I opened it, my blood ran cold. It was a paternity test order form. I dropped it, trembling. He was planning to test the baby. My baby. When Daniel came home that evening, I was waiting in the kitchen, the paper clutched in my shaking hands. What is this? I demanded. He didn't even look surprised. You went through my drawer. You went through my life. Cried. You think I'd lie about this? About her? His voice stayed calm, too calm. I think I don't know who you are anymore. I felt something inside me snap, the fragile thread of restraint I'd been holding onto for weeks. You can't punish me forever for something that never happened. He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time I realized he wasn't angry anymore. He was broken. Emily, he said quietly. You chose to let him back into your world. You chose to keep that from me. You might not have slept with him, but you betrayed me every time you picked up that phone. I opened my mouth to argue, but before I could speak, a sharp pain tore through my stomach. Daniel, I gasped, grabbing the counter. Something's wrong. His face changed instantly, panic replacing fury. He rushed forward, catching me just as my knees buckled. The hospital, he said, voice shaking. Now. Hours later, I lay in a sterile white room, the rhythmic beeping of monitors echoing in the background. The pain had subsided into exhaustion. I'd gone into early labor. The doctor said stress likely triggered it. Daniel was beside me the entire time. He held my hand, whispered that I was strong, that everything would be okay. For a moment, it almost felt like before Ethan, before lies, before suspicion poisoned everything. When I finally heard our daughter's first cry, tears spilled down my cheeks. Daniel smiled faintly, cutting the umbilical cord. His eyes fixed on her tiny face. But as the nurse took her to be cleaned, his expression changed again, distant, calculating. I knew what he was thinking, and I knew what he was going to do. A week later I found the test results. They'd been delivered while I was asleep. I recognized the envelope immediately, my heart slamming against my ribs as I tore it open. Inside, a single line. Probability of paternity. 99.99%. I exhaled, sobbing, relief flooding every vein in my body. When Daniel came home, I ran to him, waving the paper. It's yours. She's yours. He stared at the document for a long moment. Then, without a word, he folded it neatly and set it on the table. Good, he said softly. She deserves to know her real father. Froze. What do you mean? He looked at me, eyes hollow. I'm leaving Emily. Not because of her. 'Cause of us. Because every time I look at you, I see him. I reached for him, but he stepped back. I'll be in her life, he continued. But I can't be in yours. Some things break and don't mend. You taught me that. Then he turned and walked away. No shouting. No final words. Just the quiet closing of the door that ended everything. It's been 3 months. I sit by the window now, rocking our daughter to sleep. Sometimes when the light hits her eyes just right, I see Daniel in them. The shape, the color, the quiet sadness. I send him photos. He never replies. But I know he looks at them. Can feel it. As for Ethan, he's gone again. Deleted. Blocked. A ghost that no longer calls. People tell me I'm strong. That I'll be okay. But they don't understand. The worst part of betrayal isn't losing someone's trust. It's realizing how easily you broke it yourself. And now, every time I look at my daughter, I whisper the same promise over and over. You'll never grow up learning love, and lies can live in the same house. Because once upon a time, I thought a secret could stay harmless if you kept it small enough. But secrets grow. And when they finally come undone, they take everything with them.